Greetings, traveler. I am Sir Knox, the teller of tales. Would you like to hear one? This one is called Player Accuses Another Player of Racism and Classism. Group Falls Apart Because of It. Oh, great. Heya, I'm new here, but I decided to share my train wreck of a story. Also, yes, I'm on mobile, so formatting may not be great. I'm dyslexic, so bear with me. A dyslexic cow says Okay, moving on. As all these stories start, here are the important players. Me, an innocent bystander. Andy, the victim. B, the problem. Gina, not part of our D&D campaign, but still important. DM, the hero, I guess, and the rest of our party, who aren't as important, but they witnessed all of this. Everyone involved in the story is a minor, or freshly 18, so that explains a lot of the petty drama that happened. Anyway, on to the story. There is a D&D club at my school, and my sister is a DM. I decided to join another campaign just because I didn't want to play with her, not for any particular reason, and Andy was a part of that. Andy was the new kid, and they were awesome when I talked to them. We all had our session 0, and everything went by without a hitch until about the 3rd session. Apparently, out of the game, B had been pissed at Andy about their character's design. Andy is white, but their character just so happened to have a darker skin tone. Something about playing a person of color when you're white is problematic. B, who was also very white, had an in-character and out-of-character argument with Andy and why their race was different from their own. Andy got defensive, saying this is D&D and it's fantasy, and that they have a right to make their character however they want. But that didn't satisfy B. The session devolved into B and Andy arguing, rather loudly, and ended when the DM kicked both of them out of the classroom that was being used. I witnessed all of this and was just so confused. I contacted Andy that night and asked about their character. They told me the only reason their character has darker skin was because they pulled the color palette off the internet, and that was the color that went best with it. I frankly can't see the problem with their character because the character isn't a self-insert. It's a separate entity, and the character was just a human. It all just seemed ridiculous to me. I also contacted B, and she was pretty much less receptive. B threw a hissy fit over text about Andy and how they were racist and classist. I asked where the classism came from, and B explained that Andy said something to Gina that could be interpreted as classist. If I remember correctly, Gina, a girl in my sister's campaign, was complaining about her shoes hurting her feet, and Andy asked why she couldn't get new ones. Apparently, that struck a chord with B. I texted Gina and she said that it was true, but she could tell that Andy genuinely didn't mean it in a condescending way, but out of concern. Oh, great. B sounds like one of those typical young kids nowadays that just wants to get offended by everything because it makes them feel better about themselves. It's like a weird egotistical self-inflation kind of thing to be offended. Andy officially left our group the next week, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't expect them to stay with all the accusations, but I kept in touch with them. Andy wasn't okay after this. They started to genuinely believe they were racist, and I saw them at school. They looked drained, depressed, and sad all the time. Yes, that's what being overly sensitive does to people. You think everything you do is wrong. Over text, they were much less chipper. They began to go to therapy more and more, but it didn't help. Their grades began to slip, and all around this affected their mental health. I resented B after that. Andy is the furthest away from racist and goes out of their way to help those less lucky. But this entire thing started a cycle of trying to appease this person by donating to charities and posting proof on social media. They started to look like a tryhard. I felt horrible for them, but I didn't know what to do since I'm so non-confrontational. That was until a couple of months ago before the new year. My sister had to start going to swim practice, so her game was put on hiatus indefinitely. But that left room for more drama to fester. Apparently, multiple people showed support for Andy and tried to help them through all of this. B hated that and yelled at so many people for sympathizing with racist. When it was brought up that some people were worried for Andy's life, B called them an attention seeker. And let's just say that didn't go over very well. Most of the D&D club has some sort of mental illness. I guess we gravitate towards each other. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Andy had gotten into a car wreck earlier that week, very close to the time people were getting concerned for their safety. It was so close, a lot of people questioned if it was a coincidence. DM laid into B, telling her she had no right to speak about someone in that way. and that B was the only one that actually had a problem with Andy. B was the only one who thought all of these horrible things about Andy, but no one has the courage until right now to tell her. This entire scene killed any hope that the campaign would continue. It was already dying anyway, and B's hostility is insane. So months go by with no D&D. I still talk to Andy, and finally, after months, they are back to their old chipper self again. They got a new job, and they said that they are planning on DMing a homebrew campaign in a few weeks. They offered to let me join since I actually stayed in touch. I have to make sure my schedule works, but I'll definitely join if I can. As for B, I heard that she recently apologized to Andy. They aren't friends by any means, but it looks as if B figured out that she was the one in the wrong the whole time. I'm wondering if anyone agrees about the whole racism thing. It's not my place to say if it was or not, but it feels silly to accuse someone of racism who places a different race from their own in D&D. Any advice would be appreciated. Of course they're not racist. Of course Andy is not racist because he happened to have a character that he created with darker skin. Okay? Racism has nothing to do with playing a character like in a D&D game or in a video game. Or it's racism is where you have a hatred for something, or you look down on them, or you have some sort of stereotype that you associate with something, usually negative, with a group of people. It's basically where you try to push yourself as a superior mentally to others simply based off of their looks, right? That's pretty much the summary of what it is. That did not happen by picking a character. No, B is just one of those psycho little kids that's been brainwashed by a particularly extremist group of people that seems to find problems with everything, and it's like they get off and feel better about themselves by trying to bring others down and make them feel like they are the worst people to ever exist on the planet. So, no, poor Andy, I feel bad for him. I hope B grows up and realizes that there's actual times to be offended and upset, and this was definitely not one of them. Our next tale is called Longtime Player Silently Tortures Us. What a nice segue. Obligatory mobile disclosure, throwaway for anonymity, names changed for same reason. Okay, thank you. This story takes place over multiple years with a group I've played with for some time. The cast is Scatman, longtime friend of mine. Scatman? Like a jazz singer, or he's into a poo fetish, I'm not sure. And usual DM, Mayo, a very good boy, but very soft. What is with these names? GF, my partner, the newest player, but not by much. Me, sometimes player, sometimes DM, and Chatty, the problem player. Because this story takes place over multiple years, I want to highlight general behaviors of Chatty before getting into specifics. Chatty fancied themselves as very emotionally intelligent and capable of reading a room, despite being one of the most obtuse people I've ever met. She would often say very tone-deaf things or very backhanded compliments, often meant to raise herself back up. She was always insecure about Girlfriend since they were the only two girls in the group, and Girlfriend has always been an interesting person. After Girlfriend graduated from an Ivy League, I'm still over the moon proud. Over the course of our game, Chatty would often say things like, "Yeah, I would have gotten in if I wasn't poor," or "I don't test well, so that's why I didn't get in." I never once heard the words congratulations leave her mouth. These behaviors always came to a head whenever we would sit down at the table. Chatty has a tendency to make a lot of self-inserts. She'll claim they're different and unique, but really only in the flavor of abilities. Most of the time, she would play a high dex or high int character that looked exactly like her and mirrored her personality, rude and bulldozy. This would be fine if she would acknowledge that she just wanted to play herself, but she would insist that she was playing something else every time and then talk about Scatman behind his back about playing the same 3 archetypes of characters. She also wouldn't put on a voice or inflection, which is fine, but we would often be left wondering if something was said in character, and she would often complain to the rest of us that she can't tell if something is in character or not. This led to a lot of bleed. It also didn't help when she would fail a check or miss an attack because her self-inserts became a heavy reflection of her own value in the D&D space. Any roll below 10 would be met with sulking and angry whatevers, leaving the rest of the party sitting awkwardly and feeling guilty when they accomplished something. Additionally, when the parry would plan, she'd monologue for a few moments until someone would interrupt to contribute, and then she would restart her tangent from the beginning, unwilling to hear any input that wasn't her own. Chatty's exploits would go beyond general pole sportedness. During a game DM'd by Scatman, Chatty developed feelings for Mayos. now ex-girlfriend, who was also playing with us. The details of that aside, it ended poorly and we were left in an awkward situation at the table with high tensions. When the party found a group of wolf pups and a druid NPC, we were offered one of the wolf pups to raise, something Chatty had been asking for. Mayo's girlfriend at the time misinterpreted the encounter and thought the wolf was for our ranger. When Mayo's girlfriend tried to heal Chatty immediately after, Chatty snaps, "Don't touch me!" for seemingly no reason. The session ended shortly after that, and everyone walked away with a bad taste in their mouths. Most recently, while playing a game DM'd by me, a small joke about Scatman's 9-int paladin, knowing big words, cycled, and we had a laugh about a waterlogged thesaurus he found. His character was dinosaur-themed in an aquatic campaign. Seemingly out of nowhere, Chatty remarks, "This is what really annoys me about you," implying that the joke in his character's words broke her immersion. This obviously hurt Scatman's feelings, and he left the session almost immediately after. Chatty then had the audacity to say that she wanted an apology for him leaving like that and overreacting. But of course she did. We took a break from D&D for a few weeks after this, and most of us started to play video games together. Chatty wasn't included in this because she wasn't a fan of the games we were playing, and Scatman still needed some space. She later sends a Discord message to everyone saying that she's gonna leave the servers since she doesn't feel like anyone wants to talk to her or be her friend anymore. No one responded. Admittedly, it's not a great way to feel, but we were tired of being held hostage by her bad vibes. And we knew any attempt to intervene would result in major defensiveness, and when she offered an out, everyone took it. We recently started up a new campaign without her, and it's been some of the best sessions we've had in years. Session 2 is tonight, and I can't wait to get back to the table now that she's gone. What sounds like a happy ending. Some problem player that's just a pain in everyone's rear end is gone, which is good. Hopefully, though, that she's able to reflect on that, learn from her mistake, and maybe be a little more sociable. Chances are that's probably not going to happen. But it is what it is. Some people just can't, I guess. Anyways, that concludes our tales for today. If you'd like to hear another, come back and I shall tell you some.